Hello friends, welcome back to Trials of Imorah. It's been about a month since the last devlog, and lots of progress has been made in that time, mainly in the area of level design. There's lots of new spaces to explore, with treasures and enemies and all sorts of secrets, as you can see playing right now. But there's also specific, smaller mechanical progress that I can actually show you today. One of which being the brand new metric system. So there's actually a way to track your stats in the game of all sorts of different actions that you've done. As you can see here, I can see how many times I've killed an enemy, collected items, how far I've moved, all sorts of different damage values, and on its own, this is kind of not that interesting because this is just a static screen, right? It doesn't even pause the game right now when you look at it. But I'm hoping, well, it has some value on its own, right? Like, I kind of copied this from the Minecraft stats screen. Like, sometimes it's fun to just check what you've done on your journey. But this can be expanded on with other systems that I am excited about. The obvious one being achievements. Eventually there'll be an achievement system tracking... Well, the achievement system will track like obvious stuff, like how far you're in the game and stuff, and I'm not necessarily going to have an achievement for every single one of these because that would be tedious. But the idea is I have a system that's tracking the stats of what the player has done, and that can connect to an achievement system. It'll all just... the achievement system will be easier with that in it. More exciting, though, is I could connect this to quests and NPCs, though. Like, they could say certain dialogue things depending on how many enemies you've killed, how many items you've collected, like that type of stuff. Have special dialogue, maybe have a quest where you have to kill a certain number of enemies, like a guy won't respect you until you have. I don't know. Lots of potential, though. I'm happy that this system is in. Here's it actually working. It doesn't update live as you're playing, it only updates when you open the menu. Any feedback on the user interface on this would be much appreciated, because I know it's pretty ugly right now. But yeah, you can see the numbers going up as I move around. And yeah, all these stats here are from all of my playtesting. It has a save file system every time I close out of it. So it's been tracking all of my deaths in my playtesting. Only 13. That probably should be higher. In addition to that, there is a new spell in the game, which I didn't exactly plan on adding, but it kind of became a necessity. Because you can there has been a spell in the game for a long time called the Earthquake Tome, which used to be in the Wind level. I'll just show it real quick. Let's spawn some enemies right here. The Earthquake Tome just damages enemies nearby that are on the ground. It notably does not kill, or it doesn't do damage to enemies that are off the ground flying, but is very effective, very strong, kind of both OP for the second level of the game, and not fitting with the wind theme that level has. So the Earthquake spell is now here in the desert ground level, I guess would be the theme of it. Much more fitting. So there needed to be a replacement item in the Wind Temple. So now there is the Razorwind Tome. Now, this item, it shoots wind projectiles that uniquely can pierce through enemies. So you can destroy a whole mob of enemies at once. This is similar to the Wind Staff, which you also get on that level, with some obvious differences. Instead of one singular wind blast, you shoot lots of them. And it also, the Wind Staff you can use for a double jump. Razor Wind you cannot. It does push you back a little bit, though. Oh, unless I removed that. Okay, I'll need to check on that. Because I don't want it to push the player around too much, because there's already so many different movement items, and, like, level design, like, you don't want the player to be able to cheese it too much. And having, like, all these different complicated extra jumps, it doesn't need to be there. It would be very cool to see what advanced players can do with it, but that's not my intention. Use the Wind Staff for that. Have fun. In addition to those new spells, or the one new spell, there are new runes that I've added. The first one being the Vengeance rune. This rune increases the damage amplification that happens when you reflect enemy projectiles back towards them. So, or actually, let me switch over to an area that actually has ranged enemies for me to reflect their projectiles from. This is from a deeper part of the level, and we have the new vessel enemies, and when we reflect their projectiles, they do more damage, but more clearly is they also home in on the enemies. Although it's not exact, of course, there's a bit of an arc to it. Oops. Oops. There we go. The other new rune is the Pierce rune, which is, there we go, at the very bottom of the list. This applies the same effect that I showed in the Razor Wind spell to your basic arrows. So your basic arrow can also pierce through enemies, and thus multiply the amount of effective damage you're doing to the enemies. So otherwise, you need 3 times the arrows. See, if I turn it back off, it's only going to hit one of them. The last small adjustment that I made that I wanted to talk about was to the shields and the antimatter system. So first of all, oh, didn't get the timing quite right on that. Let me switch over to the enemy that does a lot more damage. So for the longest time, when your shield breaks, your shield just disappears. But now when your shield breaks, it'll actually shatter into pieces. Oh. Not when you're out of mana, only when it breaks. There we go. There's actually particle effects for it being broken. The same now applies to the Umas with their shields. So if I switch over to use an antimatter weapon, there's now shattering particle effects. Their shields don't actually, they'll break, but the Umra can use their shields twice before they stop using them entirely. I might change that in the future. There's definitely an argument to have it stay completely disabled once it's broken once with an anti-magic weapon. But I don't know. I'll keep playtesting on this out. So, moving forward, the current goals for the game are to, of course, complete the level design I'm working on. We are getting extremely close. I'm literally working on designing the boss chamber right now. Of course, I need to make the new boss, which includes finalizing its attack patterns conceptually, making all the artwork for it, and then, of course, doing the very fun programming. I also want to add another Guardian NPC for the level that you'll talk to, kind of give some lore on the area of all the sorts of demons that are imprisoned here. And lastly, I want to work on a side quest, possibly 2 for this level. Again, just kind of give more lore and, more importantly, stuff to do in this level. Give you stuff to explore and find. I definitely don't expect to complete all those by next time. But those are my current thoughts of what I want to work on, and definitely complete before this summer. I think we're still on track with that goal that I talked about. Level 5 should be done by this summer. It'll be amazing. That's everything that I have to show for this time, though. Thank you for your continued support, and I'll talk to you next time.